with an objective to provide a great platform to the students where they can embark on their journey towards a successful career. The very objectives of today's virtual business summit is to get insights of our expert speakers on impact of external economic factor during COVID-19, status of performance, indicators of macro and micro enterprises, approaches to streamline the opportunities to attain prospects for economic growth, and for students, how they can upskill themselves as for the future requirement for dynamic economy. So we really look forward to understand the current economic dynamics with experts' view today. Before we start with the discussion, I would like to give brief introduction of our illustrious guest of the day. We feel delighted to have presence of Dr. Anoop, Professor, Finance, School of Business Studies, Sharda University. Dr. Anoop brings over 24 years of academics and research experience. He is associated with Sharda University School of Business Studies as Professor in Finance stream for the last 6.5 years. He was the Director of Institute of Advanced Management and Research, Ghaziabad, Director, Accurate Institute of Advanced Management, Greater Noida. He has also authored 18 textbooks in the areas of finance and accounting. Dr. Pant holds PhD degree from Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. A very warm welcome, sir. We also have been joined by Dr. Prasoom, Dwivedi, Professor, Department of Economics and International Business, School of Business, UPES, Dehradun. He is Masters in Applied Economics, University of Lucknow, and a gold medalist from 1998 batch. Holds his PhD degree from the same university in the area of energy economics. Besides gold medals in Master's degree in Applied Economics and a doctorate in Applied Economics, he also certified Chartered Economist and Fellow Global Academy of Finance and Management, USA, and Honorary Member Global Advisory Council, GAFM. A very warm welcome, sir. We also have been joined by Mr. Deepak Jalanji, founder and CEO, HR Hongkos. Deepak Jalanji is highly accomplished professional with nearly 24 years of experience in talent acquisition, strategy planning, business operations, P&L management, HR business partnering, and leadership for SME, Blue Chip, and Fortune 500 clients. Deepak Ji is a founder and CEO with HR Hongkos. His last work assignment was Group Head R&D and Tech, and he has led several large multinational organizations. A very warm welcome, Deepak Ji. We also have been joined by Dr. Sudhanshu Ji, faculty with the School of Management, Doon University. Having decade of experience as a researcher and academician, Dr. Sudhanshu's area of research interest includes technology management, supply chain analytics, digital inclusion, and sustainability. He has worked for the state and central government as principal investigator and project director into variety of multidisciplinary consultancy and research projects funded by UGC ICSSR. Warm welcome, Dr. Sudhanshu Ji. We also have amongst us Mr. Kumar Ji, National Program Coordinator, Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi. He started his career in industry working with US multinational Allen and Bradley, now Rockwell Automations. Working in the R&D centers, he designed and developed several products, including digital drivers. Currently, he is engaged in science communication, popularization, and outreach program. A very warm welcome, sir. We have also been joined by Mr. Gurendra Nath, Professor at NIIT University. Dr. Bhardwaj is actively involved in teaching at UG and PG level for more than 20 years. He was also auditor in a joint stock company, projects consultant and tax consultant in various consultancy firms. He conducted various MDPs on finance for non-executive corporate finance and tax planning for middle level management. A very warm welcome, sir. And do we have Meenal ma'am, Saurabh sir now? Did she join? So I would like to give a brief introduction also. In our panel of experts, we would have Dr. Meenal Sharma as well, HOD Management, Trinity Institute of Professional Studies. Professor Meenal Sharma, Jagtap is a PhD in Applied Economics with over 16 years of experience across a range of verticals. She has been associated with university teaching in multinational cross-cultural teaching environments. Working in reputed universities for last 15 years, presently she is working as Professor and Head Department of Management and Commerce at Trinity Institute of Professional Studies. She has recently completed a project for Niti Aayog titled Impact Assessment of PMKY as a co-project director. So thank you all, the expert guests, for joining us today and sparing your time. and giving your time and consent to join the session. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Ajay Kumar, sir, Director, GLBIMR Institute of Management and Research. Having spent 32 years of experience in academic research, training, and consultancy, sir has been at the director position in many institutions such as ITS, Asian School of Media Studies, International Chamber of Media and Entertainment Industries, DLS Institute of Technology Management, and many more. He also worked as Deputy Marketing Manager in Welcome Drugs, California, US, and has been honorary member of Cambridge Who is Who. With these words, I would now like to invite Dr. Ajay Kumar, sir, for the welcome address. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone, all the participants first. On behalf of GLBIMR Institute of Management and Research, I would like to welcome again Mr. Sujit Kumar, Dr. Sudhanshu Joshi, Dr. Meenal, Dr. Gurendra Nath Bhardwaj, Dr. Anoop Pant, Mr. Deepak Jalan, and Mr. Prasoom Dwivedi. Today we have organized Business Summit 3.0 on global pandemic and economic environment, challenges, prospects, and growth. The discussion which we are going to conduct today is again will be conducted under increasing numbers of coronavirus patients in the country and great uncertainty which is prevailing across the villages now, what to say about the big cities and towns. The subject on which we are going to have this deliberation, this business summit, talks about challenges, prospects, and growth, perhaps all very positive terms. But since last 7 months, since this pandemic started in China, the economic conditions across the globe that have been going down, and all the economy of the world, they have been worried about the financial health as well as industrial health of the world. World Health Organization first declared COVID-19 a World Health Emergency in January 2020. Since then, the emergency has evolved into a global public health and economic crisis that has affected more than 100 trillion global economy beyond anything experienced in nearly more than a century. While governments are attempting to balance often competing policy objectives between addressing the public health crisis and economic consideration, the scenario overall still remains very bleak. There are many frontiers of economic health of the nations. Prospects, yes, in my opinion, it looks bleak. If we recover in another 1.5 years, it will be a miraculous growth, I can say, or recovery, I can say. We are passing into the phase which the globe had witnessed during World War II. We are not better than that presently. If we talk about the alarming conditions, it may be seen across the globe, especially in developing or underdeveloped countries, that death rate or increase in death rate will not be from COVID-19, but from hunger and in dearth of food and basic means of livelihood. While if you talk about the developed economy or developing countries, they are confronting ballooning budgets deficits weighed against increasing spending to support unemployed workers and social safety nets. Governments have been providing financial support for national health system that are under pressure to develop vaccines while also funding efforts to care for and safeguard citizens. Implementing monetary and fiscal policies also remain a priority that support credit markets and sustain economic activity while also assisting businesses under financial distress. Focus is on implementing fiscal policies to stimulate economic activity while consumers in developed economies sharply increase their savings as households face limited spending opportunities or a form of involuntary saving and concern over their jobs, incomes, and the course of their economies or precautionary saving. There are many challenges. What to talk about health? I mean, more than 80 million people have lost jobs in our country. If we talk about unemployment, the level of unemployment is unprecedented. But the discussion which we are going to make today, that is going to be centered upon the economic conditions, opportunities, challenges, and growth. Naturally, government is also focusing on intervention by central banks and monetary authorities, generally in sovereign debt and corporate bond markets to stabilize markets and ensure liquidity, are raising concerns among some analysts that this activity is compromising the ability of the markets to perform their traditional functions of pricing risk and allocating the capital. Fiscal and monetary policies that have been adopted to date to address the immediate impact of the health crisis compared with the mix of such policies between assisting households, firms, or the state and local governments that may be needed going forward going forward with the health and economic crisis related opportunities or challenges. See, while policymakers are leaving no stone unturned in order to drive the economy or put the economy on right road, but COVID itself and the limiting factors applied by the government or applied by individual now, both, has put a lot of challenges related with the economic activities which could have otherwise been in a good position at this point of time. If we talk about our country, all of you are aware of the flood conditions in major parts of the country, in all those areas where river beds are there. So challenges are many. I believe today the experts who will be deliberating on this subject will throw proper light and will enlighten all the audience through their own deliberations, through their own guiding lines with facts and figures too. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable insights and highlighting so many pertinent points regarding the current scenario. Now, before we start with the expert talks, would like to inform you all that we have already been joined by around 300 participants from all around the globe, and would request you all, you may write your queries in the chat box. And one more important information that we would be pasting the feedback link in the chat box. So stay tuned with us till end of the session, because you all have to fill that feedback form, and that would help us to provide you e-certificate. So now moving forward to start with the discussion, I would like to first invite Dr. Anoop Pant ji, Professor, Sharda University, to please deliberate upon the topic. Please, sir. Sir, you have to unmute yourself. Okay. Sorry,
Please
sir. Yeah.
unmute Dr. Anupan.
Sir, I have requested him to unmute.
Anoop, sir, you would have to
Yeah,
unmute.
thank you. It was mute. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Hi, everybody. I'm Anoop Pant, Professor, Sharda University. Good afternoon and a warm hello. I'm so honored and thrilled to be part of this discussion. Now, of course, the big question that comes to everybody's mind is how do we get out of this pandemic? With the huge financial losses, economies of the world, including India, are facing. Drastic challenges lie ahead. Now, to put forth this idea, I would say there's a usual class war is operating right now. There are people basically who call themselves masters of the world, those who are already trying to plan the future economy. And then there is another group of people, the general public at large, who are at the moment more quiescent. And if this continues, the plan of the masters, as the government officials and the bureaucrats will be put to action. Now, what they plan to reconstitute the economy pretty much the way that it was under the neoliberal period and has been the same since the last 30 years. But now, what we see is that these measures are becoming more harsher, with more controls over the people. More means of authoritarian measures are bought that we see in the consequent planning and the removal of so many regimes that were there present. More efforts are being put in place to ensure that there is no interference with the model. Now, this pandemic has given a great opportunity to us to ask questions, raise our voice about what sort of world that we want to live in. A world that is bereft of such pandemics, a world that is very different from the world that we presently are living in. All these sort of questions are to be asked now. This is the right time to do that. Right now, though we are suffering from the pandemic, but we should remember one thing, that this pandemic will go away in some future point of time. Maybe in 6 months' time, you would have a sort of a vaccine or a medicine for that. But there are several other crises that go far beyond this pandemic. Sooner or later, we will escape. But then, what we need to understand are the harsher realities about the consequences of global warming. Sir also measured about that concentration of wealth in a few hands, overutilization of resources, pollution, ethnic crisis, religious crisis, and so on. The problem now is that the countries of today, the major countries of today, are trying to exacerbate this problem. What they want is they ensure that this pandemic acts imminent as possible. All their efforts right into it till the moment that we are speaking. Now we go back to our own country, India. Now let us see something that is happening here. In India, if you watch carefully, even before the pandemic, when we talk about concentration of wealth, 0.1, not 1, 0.1% of the population had 20% of wealth under their belt. 50% of the population had a negative net worth, where liabilities are greater than assets. And if such pandemic strikes, then the majority population can barely do anything. So wealth is sharply concentrated. The affluent West, China, or USA is no different. You can still log into the details. The financials are very much clear, evident in today's world because of the user-generated content and the virality of the internet. Now, these all things are not a necessity. They are policies and can be changed. They are not utopian to think that we cannot bring about prosperity. At least we can bring about dignity of life to all. Now again, see the second factor, the stimulus that was programmed, that was undergone by the government, which was passed by none other than the finance minister, Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, who is the guiding force, the thinker in the administration. I will call her the evil genius. Now, this is when I call her this name, is not that I'm anti-government. It is the policy, the neoliberal policy which our government is also following. Now see the 20 lakh crore package, what it contains, much of it is comprises of bank loans, interest subvention schemes, or easy liquidity facility. Now the use of intermediaries by the government as quasi-financial instrument with diversion of financing for non-commercial purposes reinforces the decline in quality of assets. Secondly, the absence of effective and time-bound bankruptcy procedures force intermediaries to roll over existing substandard debt or convert them into equity. Thereby doing what? They are continually building up riskiness into the asset portfolio. In the wake of COVID-19, again, what the government did, had asked banks not to recognize fresh NPAs arising out of COVID-19. And they have also halted the IBC, that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Analysts have criticized this. Quite recently, the ex-RBI governor, Urjit Patel, who was part of the BJP fraternity, he was brought in as the RBI governor, has criticized this policy. Now again, go again to another chapter which the government did. Now, this is a double-edged sword. Recently, it initiated a major bank merger among state-run banks, and the same came into effect on April 1. According to this plan, the Punjab National Bank absorbed Oriental Bank of Commerce and Union Bank, creating the second largest bank after SBI. Similarly, the Syndicate Bank merged with Canara Bank, and Union Bank of India absorbed both Andhra Bank and Corporation Bank. Also, Indian Bank took over Allahabad Bank. Another factor, which plays out in these days, patriotism and nationalism, that fervor is on. You have it, the journalists preying upon it, along with the ultra-nationalists. What we need to realize here is that now we are living in a globalized world with multinational companies, both Indian and foreign, participating in the economic growth of the country and world over. Pseudo-nationalism can cause harm, though yes, we have to work towards self-reliance. We'll have to address many issues, the corporate legal system, the banking laws, to make them this transition, this phase. Now it doesn't come in a day or two. It takes time, it evolves. Not the mere rhetoric of ultranationalism will work. Collapse of the world order can cause ruin or irreparable damage. Billions of dollars are invested in other countries. We have a huge sovereign bonds that we have bought from US Treasury. Word of caution has to prevail. Hypercapitalism has to be put to a stop. Now the question, why did this pandemic come in at the worst time? Now, everybody says that this pandemic can cause huge financial havocs, the world's financial systems can close down, so on and so forth. But I would take you back, just a century back, with an example of my grandmother, who, had she been alive, would be about 100 plus years. She had seen this all. She had seen two great world wars. She had seen the partition of India. She had seen the Korean War, the Great American Depression, so on and so forth. But they lived. And that is the result that we are here today talking about this. So our grandparents had lived there. World was quite poorer then. Medical facilities were not there. So we will come out of this. Again, we need to bother ourselves with some sort of an elaborate discussion about how to deal with it. Let's look into the big stimulus. What can be done? See, we need a good surveillance system in the stimulus. Nobody is talking about the surveillance system, how it works. Second, allow workers and management, or workers or rather in the management board. Not allow moving of funds to tax haven. The big corporates have this habit of moving tax funds, their savings into the tax haven. Some sort of, say, system has to be put in place to make at least livable wages available to workers. The government should allow firms to borrow money only with conditionalities after they fulfill certain of them. Now, these measures might look utopian, but if you go back to a world before 1990, these all laws existed. Now, the greater question is, why did this pandemic happen? People have to discuss this. We'll have to travel back in time. 2003, it was the SARS epidemic. Then came the MERS, and then the Ebola virus epidemic. Scientists knew that there was a very likelihood of a new coronavirus, which was in the making. They knew how to prepare for it, but it didn't happen. The question is why? Why did it happen? Knowledge itself is not the only thing. You have to have institutional structures. So how this could have worked out? Of course, the pharma companies, of course, could have enormous resources. The government and the public has poured money into their pockets. And with the protectionist measures like the incredible patent laws, the patent protection laws, intellectual property rights, huge gifts have been given to them to enrich the pharma companies. They're overflowing with money. Could they take this up? Now the question is, it's not only the pharma companies to be blamed. Could they take us up? They were prevented. No is the answer. Why? Why? Because we are now following hyper-capitalism, that what you are supposed to do is to watch the market sentiments, the market signals. You wouldn't make money by preventing a catastrophe that is likely to happen in the future, and now it has happened. Profit don't happen by making something that is still down the road. So the pharma companies got out of this by a simple logic, the capitalist logic. Why does the government not step in? The government does step in. Several times the government has stepped in. We have a recent example of the polio eradication. That was a great effort by the Indian government. And almost, yes, about 2 years back, we had this polio eradicated from our country. But then now what is happening if you see? Gradually, the budgetary allocation towards medical and other things are being cut down, curtailed. So this is where it needs a revamp, a rethink. Now, there's a very interesting humor to it. You see, government sometimes is the problem, not the solution. Government doesn't interfere in these ways. Government interferes only when it means bailing out the rich people, the large enterprises, and of course, sometimes the poor people when it's an election year. Now to conclude, all this is not utopian. In the past, fascism was replaced by liberal social democracies. Neoliberal world was founded after the social liberal democracy system somehow could not take it up. People thought about making profits. Now what we need to add is some texture to this, what is called the liberal world or the capitalists. Now this is what I would like to conclude with, that what world we are to come out will depend upon the balance of forces. Great authors have written this. I'll name two of the authors. If you have time, you can look upon them. Is Noam Chomsky, the great social thinker and economist. Robert Pollin from the Massachusetts University. You've got Jeffrey Sachs from Economics of Columbia, Earth Sciences Institute. Those are the great people. They have written a lot about it, and not because of COVID. They had been writing about the classical case of capitalism and how it is ruining the world, and maybe a catastrophe that is waiting to come will unfold itself. And here we have it. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Anoop, for such a brief deliberation on the topic, and very rightly said that balance of forces that has to be maintained, and then only we'll be able to come up with a certain solution and will be able to combat with such crisis. Thank you so much for your discussion on this topic. Now I would like to invite Dr. Prasoom Dwivedi, Professor, UPES University, to please share your thoughts on the topic. Please, sir. Prasoom Dwivedi. Do we have is Dr. Prasoom Dwivedi connected with us?
Yes, he's there. I requested him to.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
continue.
So, thank you so much for this opportunity. I need permission to share a screen. I have a small presentation to use to share my views on this topic. Thank you so much, Dr. Pant. You have actually set the ground for us to initiate the discussion. And thank you so much for providing the overarching view on pandemic, and also to the director, sir, Dr. Ajay Kumar, sir. I will be talking about, as Dr. Pant briefly raised the issue of institutional arrangements during these periods. And as all of us know that none of the government was prepared for this. So just give me 1 minute. Yeah, can you see the screen now?
It's visible, sir.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, so I have made an attempt I hope you will like it. Only just for the summit. At UPES, we are working on some of the projects funded by GCRF, Global Challenge Research Fund, and ICSSR, where we are trying to analyze some social aspects with the help of a theory of Treasury of Commons, which was initially given by the Garrett Hardin, but after that, Elinor Ostrom got Nobel Prize on this theory in 2009. So today I'll just give you a brief idea. And although this theory was not applied in this kind of situation, but I am trying to understand the COVID situations, and also trying to understand the behavior of individuals, communities, as well as the institutions. And some of the findings I'll just try to share with you. And maybe this is a group of researchers and students. You may like to take it forward, and you can do some research on this. And for us, like researchers, this area is going to be a big area of interest for the funders all over the world. So this is a potential of this topic. I'll be just talking about how the pandemic, the rate is, and what are the fatality rates. And then I will also take you through how in these 4 or 5 months the cases have grown, and who are the leading states in India, and what are the major events happened during these periods, and what happened actually. And then at the end, I'll be just introducing the concept of Treasury of Commons and common pool resources, and with the help of this theoretical framework, what is the status, still we are working on it, so there is no final finding on this, because there are a lot of things which are emerging and coming into the picture. I will show you some of the very interesting pictures, but we are not having data to support that. This is the WHO's dashboard, you can see, and you can also see the numbers. This is the today's number on 25th of July. And Dr. Pant also talked about the pandemics all over the world in the last few years. I have also tried to compare the fatality rate during these pandemics. So the HIV kind of case, the fatality rate is around 42.7%. In case of flu in US, the fatality rate was 0.1%. H1N1 0.02. Ebola, in case of Ebola, it is 67%. Spanish flu, it is 5%. But in case of corona, the world average is 4.11, and India's average is 2.37. And I'm happy to share with you that this fatality rate has gone down. I did this calculation on 6th of June, and it was around 2.68%. Today it is 2.37%. So yes, fatality rate is going down, but the number of cases are growing. You can see this graph where I have tried to plot the confirmed cases since beginning, from 14th of March and April, May, June, July. And on the top, you can see some dots, yellow dots. These are the events which happened. The central government issued the notifications to tackle the situation. And you can see after 6th of June and onwards, you can see the yellow points which are actually indicating the unlockings. Apart from that, these are the events, and also these are the cases where you can see how the decisions were taken by the government and what kind of incidents happened. In this case, we are representing the confirmed cases as well as what kind of decisions taken by the ICMR and Ministry of Home Affairs, uh, uh, and this presentation will be mainly focusing on what institutions have done. I will not be talking about what people have done, what communities have done, but here I'll be more focusing on what institutions have done and how the cases have been going through. So this is something, and you can see the graph is continuously growing up. It will continue to grow because we have reached to a situation, but still the good news is that WHO has still not declared that India is in the stage of community transmission. We are still in the stage of transmission in the clusters. So the things are not so bad, and we are trying, all the communities, individuals, all of us are trying to control the situation as soon as possible. This slide is actually talking about the share of the cases in respective states, and a lot of data is available. Although Dr. Mishra didn't allow me to speak more than 15 minutes, so I'm trying to cover only one aspect of it. So a lot of data is available. Lot of econometric analysis can be done by the students and the researchers. Here, what I have tried to compare, the change in the share of states in the confirmed cases, and largely actually Gujarat, Delhi, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra. These are the four states which are representing more than 70% of the share. And you can see how Maharashtra is moving 37 to 42% and to 44%. Although in Maharashtra, the Dharavi model has been quite appreciated, the way they conducted, and they curtail the number of cases. And this has also started a question between the behavior between the rich people and between the poor people. And with this is an example. Again, I have not covered this, but it is better to quote here. The Dharavi is an example where the institutions feel that it is easy to communicate, it is easy to nudge the behavior of people, those who are from poor background rather than the rich background. So this is the case. You can see the different periods which we have taken from 27th of April to 7th of May, then 8th May to 18th May, from 19th May to 29th May. Similarly, continuing with the same comparison, you can see again the share of uh, the same states, where how the percentage of the states is moving. Delhi is 17%, 22%, and 21%. Tamil Nadu again leading with 23%, and Maharashtra is around 33 to 34% till 1st of July. Till 23rd of July, this is the current share. And here you can see a big improvement as far as the cases in Delhi is concerned. And you would like to know the reason, but I'm sorry, I don't know the reason, because I try to explore it. Uh, but there is no specific data which can help us to understand what happened in Delhi and due to which the number of cases have declined. In Maharashtra, I have tried to analyze these three states: Delhi, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu, because these states are in total are actually sharing almost more than 65% or 70% cases are representing the cases of corona infection cases. So again, in the same way, these are this is the curve which you can see, and Again, the red dots and green dots, which you can see on the presentation, this is actually representing the confirmed national events as well as the state events. What happened at a state level and what happened at the national level, and how it has represented the movement of cases. The second thing is, as I have also discussed with you, from 24th June onwards, in Delhi, the number of cases have started declining sharply, which is a good news. But as a researcher, we need to know what actually the government, Delhi government has done. It is still we are exploring. I hope we will get some good practices, which will be a landmark for other implementing agencies of other states and also for the national level institutions. This is again Tamil Nadu curve, which you can see. The parameters are same. The red dots and the green dots are representing the cases, events in at national level as well as the state level. Here, my observation is, I have tried to list the events which are largely, we have tried to cover from 24th of March to 1st of July. There are a lot of events happened, but majorly, I can see three major events which are actually, I can say, major contributor towards this corona infections. The first one is, all of us know that how it has started, and it is started with the people, those who are uh, you know uh, those who are uh, traveling to India. And as you know, the first case was identified in Kerala. A student from Wuhan, from China. He is studying there the medical course, and he came from Wuhan, and he was the first person who was identified as corona positive. And later on, there was a group of travelers from Italy, if you remember. They were traveling. They were actually visiting Rajasthan, Jaipur, and many other places where the group was identified corona positive, and it was a big news. And that's how it started, and later on how the government has started screening at the airports. And as you know, Delhi and Mumbai, these are the main gateways, major gateways for international travelers. More than 70 to 80%, passenger travel is being handled by these two airports. So you
Sorry
can,
to interrupt, Prasoom. You would have to wrap up in another 3 minutes.
yeah,
The
I'll do that.
request.
I'll do that. So yes, so this is the one phase of increase in the corona cases. Second is the movement, the collection of group of people at Nizamuddin, which actually people spread in a number of states. To be precise, around 18 states they spread. And then the labor problem started, and due to which the number of cases started rising. Here we have to really review the decisions taken by the state governments and the national bodies to control the. If you remember, one of the very first speeches of our own Prime Minister, where he actually appealed and requested the people that where you are, you should stay there, don't move anywhere. But actually, it could not happen. Here, the institutional role and institutional structure came into picture. Here, I'm just briefly introducing the concept of Treasury of Commons. It was given by Garrett Hardin. He has published a very popular paper in 1968, where in just 2 lines, the population problem has no technical solution. It requires fundamental extension in morality. You read it, you will understand it better, what he was trying to say and what actually we need today to do actually. Technical solutions are not that much important, that much the morality at every level, be it institution or be it the individuals. This is the tragedy of common, simple words. We have a grazing ground, and if we have, this is the observation of Harden from European countries where the rural people need a grazing area for their sheep and for their livestock, and it is a big area of concern. So if the number of animals will increase, then how far the grazing ground will be available, or the food will be available for the animals. So how these grounds should be managed, the Treasury of Commons has actually talked about that. Similarly, these are the few highlights where this theory actually can provide us some guidelines on this. I am just taking the few concepts from this theory, which these concepts can help us in understanding the COVID situation in India, especially the institutional structure and the decision making. One is the concept of common pool resources, which I just shared the concept with you. Participation, especially the individual participation, is very important. Community participation, how communities would react towards that. And another important thing is polycentricity in the governance system. So you can see in the next slide, I have tried to list out. So in this case, we have the common CPR, we have public places, freedom and public space, participation, people and institution, role of community to use the shared resources, and polycentricity, you can see from WHO to the local level institutions, everybody is involved. So it is very important to understand the levels and the role of institutions in this situation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And indeed, you talked about your interpretation on the trends of COVID-19 during our question answer session. We'll definitely take the impacts of these cases, the growing crisis on our economy from your opinion as well. So now I would request our next guest speaker, Dr. Gurendra Nath Bhardwaj, Professor from NIIT University, to please share your views on the topic, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Please continue. Your screen is visible.
Yeah. Just a minute. So, hello everyone. This is Dr. Gurendra from NIIT University. So, I have taken all 5 aspects which have been mentioned, and I'll touch upon all these aspects. Hope my PPT is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes, it's visible. Please continue, sir.
Fine, thank you. So, when I see all these 5 topics, these are very important. And what I think personally on this, I'm sharing my views. There may be a debate on this, but yes, I am starting from a very important topic, and that is impact of external economic factors. So when I say external economic factors, now I'll list few of them, and it's very important. Most of us, we can say that during lockdown, everything was going down. But recently there was a news. The news was the gold price has increased. Now, when we see the external economic environment and international economic environment, we must factor these variables. What is the crude oil prices? What is the gold prices? What is the indexes, common indexes? What is the level of foreign investment in top economies? And especially in today's scenario, there's a very important aspect in the economic scenario across the world, and that is anti-China sentiments. There are 2 basic reasons for this. There may be a debate on this, who has invented this COVID. But as per the reports across the world, it is started from China. Now people start believing. Some may agree, some may disagree. But at the same time, people have a hate sentiments against the China. Now, at the same time, China has a very large level of production because their production approach is based on the clusters. And therefore, the cost of production is very, very less. Now, most of the economies, they were dependent on the spare parts or assembly line. Now, when it comes on the assembly line, small parts, which are basically supported by MSME across the world, have been taken away by the China just because of the cost. Not only this, many big manufacturing companies and organizations, they have transferred their plants from their original place to China because of the cost of production. And therefore, when we see the US economy and European economy, we find the impact of lower production cost of China in these two economies, apart from Indian economy. Now, at the same time, if you'll see, most of the most of the developed economies, their source of income is also from market of weapons. This is a very important aspect, and we should understand as a student of economics. And sometimes, because of the huge margin and scientific development in this, people don't want a peace. And therefore, there is a classical examples of rumors, noise, and everything. It's a business model. Nowadays, it is a business model. And therefore, when we understand this impact of external economic factors, according to me, these are few important aspects which we should consider. Now, when we say the status of performance indicators of macro and micro enterprises, I am very much concerned about the micro enterprises, especially medium enterprises. So when this issue of labor migration has started by the media, I immediately objected. And I have written the article on that because it was planned. There was a reason that these laborers have been migrated from a location of work to their hometown. Knowing this thing that there's no availability of resources, there's no availability of employment at their hometown. Now, especially I'll take the example of Bihar. Now, if we have seen the cases of corona, corona cases have increased in Bihar. Because of what? Just see the status of labor transportation before and after. At the same time, there is a political instability where people were demanding for funds. Now, government does not have a funds. And therefore, this is very important aspect that we should think on when we say that what are the important aspects of micro and macro enterprises to develop. Now, what happens because of this? There is a blockage of the income flow. And that's why I say disruption in the smooth flow of income. When I see a business unit, I can see the cash flow of many organizations 20th March. They have a lot of funds in the market. They were assuming that the business will continue. For 4 months, their money was in the market. And there's a lot of bad debts. Many MSME small units are not able to survive because of that disruption in the smooth flow of income. At the same time, in MSME in India, there's a very poor level of social security arrangements. So if you remember when the government announced that yes, there will be PF contribution, ESI contribution for the employees, very low share of MSMEs setup, they have the provision of ESI and PF. Even there was a support by the government. And very important aspect, and that is health and education service in India. So when we today we are facing this problem, we have to think that as a government, state, central, and as an individual also, how much we have to concentrate in these two services. One is health, another is education. Now, there may be a lot of debate because of the shortage of time. I'm not going in that, but very important aspect as a faculty, we can see this thing that in a higher education, especially in a private institution, how we have changed ourselves from a normal class, face-to-face class to digital classes. Now, third, aspect which I could find in you, and that is approach to streamline the opportunities to attain prospects of economic growth. And the first is self-confidence. This is very important aspect. I personally believe we have to grow. First, we have to build the confidence in ourselves. We cannot borrow the confidence. And the next very important thing is that is attitude. We see the things. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of technological development. There are a lot of examples of IITs that they have developed new products. New startups have been developed by IITs. Why? Because the attitude was very clear. We have to grow. And that is an opportunity when there is less class, there's less student, there's opportunity for research. And those who have grabbed this opportunity, they got the benefit. In India, except this stock market, the financial market is not so efficient. When I say financial market is not efficient, it's a very simple indicator, and that is the level of participation of the population. Very least. Every day we are talking about the ratio of insurance. Now people realize, after COVID, people realize what is the importance. That if I fall sick, what will happen? So there should be a security. Who will arrange the security? We have to arrange our security. So the financial losses should be secured. And definitely there's a lot of scope to improve the quality of the product, the design of the product, and customization of the financial products according to the need of the customers. And at the same time, since because this physical movement will come down, there's a less physical movement, and therefore most important aspect which I want to touch here, that is secured and fast communication network. So the speed, the bandwidth of internet, and the quality of hardware, software, everything is important. We have to work on this. As a University of Computer Science, the NIIT is known for the computer education in last 40 years. We feel proud as a technology-driven organization, and therefore every day we work on the technology. Every day. Next is level of awareness among the population, and this is very important thing. Most of us, we use social media just for humors, not for the knowledge. And there's a lot of opportunity to share the knowledge on the WhatsApp and Facebook, what we do. Unfortunately, in India, we share our jokes, we share our humors, we share other undesirable things on the social media, and therefore there's a less awareness about the pandemic as well as the precaution level also. And now, important aspect, movements towards self-reliant nation. The most important thing is role of government. We cannot eliminate the role of government, whether it's state government, whether it's a central government, whether it's a local government. Now, intentionally, I have taken this point of law and order situation. In the month of July, we have seen in Uttar Pradesh, there's a lot of investment which was coming. In recent 20 days, these last 20 days, we have seen the bad law and order situation. The movement, it spread in the business community, within the investors. Definitely there's an impact in the economy, there's impact on the employment, there's an impact on the investment. Now at the same time is a political stability. I'm talking from Rajasthan. Very interesting example I can give. Now, there is a political instability. Nobody is bothered about the population, how they are fighting with the corona. They are fighting with each other. At the same time, I have an expert in this panel, so I'll not go in this, but yes, very important aspect of entrepreneurship promotion and mentoring. This can change the economic level of country at every level. And last important thing is change in lifestyle. What is impetus on economic activities and action? Most important thing is change in lifestyle. Many of us have changed our lifestyle, whether we like it or not. We can remember what was the last time when we visited restaurant? What was the last time when we have seen movie? There is economic impact, but now we have to learn the lifestyle discipline also, because there is a shrinking of active income, and therefore there is a huge opportunity in making a good portfolio of passive income, and therefore every one of us we have to think on it. At the same time, there is a huge debate, huge discussion on this, how we should measure the performance of any organization based on the physical space or virtual space. So in next 1 year, I'll give many examples. The moment Harvard said that next year, full next year, everything will be online. Immediately IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, IIT Delhi, many IITs. Now we have to think, do we have that much infrastructure, IT infrastructure? So over a period of time, we spend a lot of money on the physical infrastructure, but as an education institution, we have missed this thing, and there is a need to work on this. Last but not the least, very important aspect, dispensation of knowledge through technology, and this webinar, this summit is a classical example of this. Now 300, around 300 people, we are putting our views. There may be disagreement, there may be debate. At least we had an opportunity. Just calculate the cost of this event, divide by 300 per person, per unit. And therefore, the mass communication becomes cheaper when we use the technology. And with this, I'm ending my presentation. I'll open the forum for the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful presentation. And indeed, very briefly, you discussed all the points and related to the topic that we had. We also discussed about the level of social security, and of course, we need to realize the opportunities for customizing the financial products and other products. There's a need of an hour for disruption of technology as much as we can. Thank you so much for sharing the presentation. And we would also request the speakers if they can share the presentation with Akhilesh Mishra, sir, Dr. Akhilesh Mishra, so that, because a lot of participants in chat box, they are asking for the presentation slides. So if possible, would request Akhilesh, sir, to please contact all the guest speakers for the presentation. Next, I would request Dr. Sudhanshu Joshi ji from Doon University to please share his views on the topic. I would like to invite Sudhanshu ji.
Yeah, can you see my PPT?
Yeah, it's visible. Visible, sir. Perfect.
Right. Nice. So, good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thanks to Professor Akhilesh for inviting me over here with such a great, eminent speakers from India. I feel myself, a bit learner in front of them. I have seen that a lot of good people are here in the panel. Professor Sujit Banerjee, Professor Anoop Kumar ji, Deepak ji, Sujit ji, and my ex-colleague, Professor Prasoom ji and Gurendra, Nath, Bhardwaj ji. They're very senior colleagues. So I wish to actually focus more on skilling aspect of, the story. And I'm trying to, dig upon various perspective of scaling into logistic and supply chain domain specifically, because I belong to domain of operations supply chain. I have a operations supply chain research lab over here at Doon University. So we people do research in the domain. And this presentation, which lasts for next 10 minutes, will talk about the different perspective of operations supply chain and the skilling gap, which is required to be bridged during the COVID and afterwards also. So here we go. See, COVID is basically a coronavirus disease, which spread it and which actually come into picture in December 2019, as we know, when one city has wet market episode happened, and January 2020, we witnessed a great decision by World Health Organization that they call it a pandemic and they declare an emergency. Then afterwards, we witnessed a lot many of cases over here in India. In February 2020, we watched a lot of cases. Initially, a few cases was being registered, and a lot of mitigation measures has been done by government of India. We have airlift from China and Japan also. A lot of people have been rescued from these places. Then March 2020 has witnessed another episode called Lockdown First, with the huge growth in the cases, and Government of India has declared 21 days of nationwide lockdown, as we are aware. 2020, April has witnessed another round of lockdown, which is called as Lockdown 2, which was the extension until April 14, 2020. But unfortunately, we had 10,000 plus cases by that time. May 2020, again, we had the sequential, sequel of the story, Lockdown 3rd and Lockdown 4. We have watched a lot of cases has been grown up. And we got a time, actually. The lockdown was actually as a kind of, recovery, is a mitigation strategy by Government of India. We'll talk later on this also. And the things are getting, continue. But we have also witnessed a lot of economical slowdown and economical activities which has happened. Government has done with a lot of packages like Dr. Pant has already spoke about. Rupees 20 lakh crore package has been announced. And the major focus of these packages are on supply chain and MSME. And the preparedness of aviation and railway activities was the hidden, agenda behind it. And we are witnessing post-lockdown these days. So I will dig more on the economic impact first. GDP, as we go. GDP, we are witnessing, the worldwide GDP is now -3%, and great recession and depression is happening across. 302 lakh crore loss is happening every day. India has also witnessed the same. We have 7,570 crore per day loss, and zero growth in the financial year 2020 and 21. Although we have witnessed -9.3% of growth in GVA in April and June 2020. Recession is visibly here, and we can, if we go with the IMF report and International Labour Organization report and CII reports, we have witnessed that global loss in jobs is happening. 4 crore jobs are being lost as far as ILO's report 2020 is concerned. We have witnessed 257 lakh crore of income loss over the period of time when the pandemic is happening, and 4.70 crore jobs lost in USA itself. India is not actually behind the show. India is also, in terms of job losses, we have witnessed 30 to 40% in job cuts. CII, as far as CII's report is concerned, it is visible to us. Impact on 11.10 crore employees of MSME. It is harshly impacting the MSME, which is basically now the targeted, rescue industry by Government of India, because majority of employment and livelihood is happening in MSME. International trade, obviously, it is impacting the international trade also. We have witnessed 13 to 32%, which is expected, and it is visible also. Loss in international trade, import and export both. Sea and air cargo are dropped sharply. In India, 29 of 30 items, each in export and import, are severely affected. So we have witnessed a lot of, downs during the pandemic, and it is not only happening in India, it is happening across the world also. Right. So if you go with sectors, every sector by and large is witnessed, especially BFSI. If you go with the chart, we can understand that -17.3% growth rate, which is the loss rate basically, has been witnessed by financial and real estates. Mining industry is again 14.7% of the loss minus. Similarly, if you go with the chart, then we have larger impact on the manufacturing, which is considered as a backbone of India, because we are considered as the second largest manufacturer to the world in terms of electronic items concerned. Our own very much, the primary sectors are affected, minus 1.3% in agriculture, forestry and fishing, and 0.4% minus in public administration, defense and other services. So it is across 360-degree, and gross value addition has been, getting into a great dip. And one thing in commonality, if you go with this chart, you can understand that one thing is common. If you see with the highlighted one, agriculture, forestry, manufacturing, hospitals, communication, broadcasting, construction, mining and financial services, they have one thing in common, that is called supply chain. So actually this is the problem of supply chain. What I wanted to say is we have to be more focusing upon the supply chain and logistics. If you are able to make it, the backbone is economic backbone will be revamped, and we will be able to stand on our feet as soon as possible. So This is again a story which is the negative side of the impact of COVID-19 on logistics, movement of goods. Global market reduction is 17.6% to 206 lakh crore. Labor shortage is happening because for loading and unloading, we need to have the daily basis workers, which is actually because of a lot of migration which is happening. We can visualize loading and unloading based labors are not available. 10% trucks on road, which is not sufficient because drivers are unavailable. There is a shortage across the world. Disruption is happening for the last mile delivery. We can visualize that in a place like Uttarakhand or Himachal or any remote location, we can visualize that because of last mile delivery unavailability, we are not able to feed the emergency services to the people, and it is equally good for other emergency issues in other states as well. And road and railway networks are closed for a good amount of time, which is actually happened because of lockdown, and it actually affected the whole commercial business of logistic industry. So we can see this through this slide. We can understand that all the industries are being impacted because their logistic and supply chain is being disrupted. Now, this is the time when government was wanting to create a kind of a window wanted to give, and logically and strategically they come out with the lockdown so that the recovery rate will be revamped, and government was able to make something out of it, no doubts. But unfortunately, after lockdown, more and more cases are coming up, like Professor Prasoom has already told us. So we have, but fortunately, we are able to make good resilience during the time when the lockdown was happened. And the industry is able to maintain these arts, which are theoretically called as arts in supply chain. We are able to make good resilience. We are able to manage with the good recovery. Beds are available for emergency services. New hospitals are being come up. PPE kits are now being manufactured, and which was hard, we are highly depending upon China kind of countries. Now we can manufacture themselves, and our supply chains have become more robust. Now Indian Railway is on track. Local buses services are now revamped. So by and large, industry is coming up with better policies these days. So resolution is happening, resolvence is happening, and we are able to reduce the commercial losses. See, I'm taking this presentation from the perspective of commercial, industry, and our supply chain in terms of policies have become more responsive and restructured. So these strategies that firms are actually highly focusing upon these days, which are coming up with or adoption of advanced manufacturing technologies, so that with the low production because of shortage of manpower, they can manage high volumes. Flexibility and decentralization in manufacturing, cross-industrial collaborations, customized product portfolio and complexity, and managing the independent levers. This is important to understand. We will discuss it during the question answer session also, because I expect that more and more questions will come on these strategies. Now I'm moving ahead with this is something we need to understand, because it's essentially important that this is the time of emergency technologies. The technologies which can help the masses, the technologies which can help the commercial manufacturing companies. And as we understand, most of us as a scholar can understand that Industry 4.0 is something which is coming up, which is a much ahead technology, and a lot of things are happening because of this platform. We at the industry are using advanced robotics. We had blockchain for more transparency. We have energy storage because we are using other mode of technologies or in terms of energy storage. We have big data to save our things, to retrieve data through social media, so that our prediction will be more accurate when it comes to analyzing through big data. And Internet of Things will give us a kind of real-time picture of the story. So this is happening in the industry by and large. Today I was talking with a person at Siemens. He was talking about that how responsive we become after pandemic, or during the time when the pandemic is happening. And our production is customized. We are more focusing upon the industrial requirement, so that instead of crying over the shortage of manpower, government opportunities, we are trying to understand the situation, and we are trying to revamp ourselves. So this is happening because of emerging technologies, and these technologies are helping us to come up in a better fashion. Other technologies could be machine learning, so that we can, use technologies for better prediction and understanding how we can, cope up with the problems in an effective zone of COVID patients or affected clusters. We have cloud technologies in place. We have autonomous vehicles, so that driverless car will be happening for the emergency services. Now, you may have question on this, that how it is happening, because we are the developing countries, we don't have that much of technology. No, it is not. Most of the developing countries, developed countries as well, are focusing upon autonomous vehicles, so that they can help through the driverless car, they can help the patients of COVID. Advanced material for PPE kit especially, we have smart products now, so that they can reduce the chance of COVID infection, the viral infection to the human body. We have mobile technologies. For mobile internet, we are able to connect to each other between the patient and the hospital and the policymakers also. And 3D printing is really helping us for the bed design and equipment manufacturing. So we will discuss about this thing in detail in the question answer session also, as I've said. The other thing is the analytics. We should,
sorry to interrupt, Sudhanshu ji, you would have to wrap up another 1 or 1.5 minutes.
Sure. Why not? So this is something, the other aspect is supply chain analytics. I'm just moving on the, let us talk about the underlying element, right? Let me take you to the, this is something, important to understand, that emergency, services, which is known as humanitarian activities, it is only possible during the crisis called COVID, when we have a robust and responsive supply chains. If we go with this particular presentation, this healthcare supply chain become more robust, and we are able to manufacture 2.2 crores of PPE as per the requirement by this month of August, right? So PPE kits are happening because the healthcare industry has revamped its supply chain. We have ventilators which are in-house built in India these days, and we are able to make the domestic manufacturers because of the period which was happened because of the lockdown duration. We have in-house companies which are manufacturer of sanitizers, medicines, and cleaners. We have testing kits in-house. We have oxygen supply, oxygen manufactured in India. But it is happening because we are able to understand the requirement as such. And same happened with the drug distribution network. We have a very robust network over here in India. Companies are understanding the demand and able to manufacture accordingly. They have the very robust transportation and supply planning, inventory and infrastructure support they have. So that through this hub and spoke measure, they're able to make and able to deliver better to the patients and the end customers. This is the diagrammatical representation of the distribution network they are using. And risk intelligence, no doubts, we have a very robust, government has make sure that social media should be leveraged as maximum it can be. Advanced machine learning is being used, right? And Arogya Setu is an example where we are using advanced machine learning. We can understand in the 15 meter of distance who is a COVID patient, and you get the real data from, we have a website of COVID, which is basically based on machine learning only. Right. So this is basically a roadmap which we can understand that we can utilize best of the, without touch we can deliver, and without touch we can bring service to the end mile customer. And drone is something, is helping us to make the things happening, because we have something called synchronized truck drone delivery system, which is helping the firms, the retail companies and the healthcare companies or pharma companies to deliver at the last mile. So this was all about, now one aspect which I wanted to cover, food grain, is also, we will talk in the question answer session. One thing I wish to take you upon is, this is the losses of the jobs. It is happening because in every recession, we have to face the job losses. But India, being a company which is actually contributing huge to the world, will remain as an outsourcing hub for the world in the days to come. So we should not be disheartened, as most of the people which are over here as a viewers, are the students. So they should not be disheartened in terms that they will able to get the job or not, but they should be very much, intelligent enough to opt for the new technologies, new skill set actually. And if you see that across all the world, India is showing still the positive, dynamics. And by and large, which is important is to understand what is the requirement these days, what kind of skill is required. So traditional skills probably is going to not give you the leverage. You have to be very much, intelligent enough to go for the right skill set. I'm just quoting one last slide. The top skill set in 2020 are more about, skilling ourselves with creativity, collaboration, adaptive and emotional intelligence especially. And the hard skills are for anyone who is of commerce or economics or management domain student. They should skill themselves into hardcore skills also, including blockchain, cloud computing, analytics, artificial intelligence, business intelligence, because these are important these days. No, one has to look forward, and institutions also need to come up with more customized, coursewares so that they can fight and they can, come out wonderfully. And every institution, as per McKinsey's,
Sudhanshu ji,
suggestions
we are
concerned,
running short of time, and other speakers
this
are
is this
also
is this is the last slide.
Oh,
This is the last slide, ma'am.
okay.
Every institution at its level, because India is good in terms of higher education, and B schools, which are the private institutions, are becoming a backbone of higher education in India. So every B school or every school which is imparting commerce or management education should come out with this thing, that they should be the nerve center to the COVID. They should create an ecosystem where the students, where the faculty, staff, non-teaching staff, and the external stakeholders should come together and have their shareable knowledge content, so that they can come out with a better ecosystem, and we can understand that classrooms in 2020 academic year will be more flip mode. So with this word, I wish that we will look forward for a very, very dynamic ecosystem in education, and we are able to feed the skill requirement of future workforce after the COVID. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for such a elaborative discussion and this PPT. You have covered all the aspects of COVID-19 and its impact, and you also talked about sector-wise estimated impact. So I'm glad that you also talked about risk intelligence mechanism that we are adopting. Thank you so much, Sir Sudhanshu ji, for sharing your thoughts on the topic. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Meenal Sharma Jagtap ji for sharing her views on the topic. Do we have Meenal Sharma ji?
Yes, she's there. I'm requesting her to unmute.
Yes. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. Respected Director Sir, Dr. Akhilesh Mishra Sir, colleagues and all participants of this business summit. It is indeed my pleasure to be part of such a prestigious program. And definitely I must compliment and congratulate the organizers for putting together such a program and giving us the opportunity to discuss timely issues. I'm lucky to have spoken after so much deliberations have been already done on the various topics. I do not have a presentation, but the topic on which I am speaking today is road to economic growth through industrial clusters of backward states. So what I'm talking about is that post-COVID, how we plan our economic recovery as far as India is concerned, and how do we plan to give jobs to the millions of people who are left jobless due to this pandemic, and also the new people who would join the workforce. That's when the of COVID-19 pandemic struck us. We were grappling with the dangers of a global economic slowdown and major conflicts between powerful countries of the world. China, the breakup of these in itself were a series of unprecedented events. And while we were trying to recover from all of that, we had the COVID crisis. However, few months into the crisis, most countries of the world have realized the potential dangers of being overtly dependent on one country, China, that had almost become the global supplier of goods. Supply chains in major industries like aviation, pharmaceutical, medical equipment, etc. got disrupted during this pandemic. And one of the reasons was because China is a major center in the global value chain for these industries. And once this country was impacted by the pandemic, the global value chains got disrupted. The role of China as a central hub in many global value, it brought losses of about 50 billion in global exports. Countries the world over have since then realized that in order to safeguard its people, the ownership over its resources have to be proclaimed again. And domestic manufacturing capabilities should not be allowed to suffer in the name of globalization and free trade. Similar sentiments, and we should, view the whole scenario in a political context also. So moving forward, as far as India is concerned, we should focus all energy in developing our manufacturing capabilities. As of now, the industries in India are either, either a concentration of small and micro firms at one end of the spectrum, and some large firms in each sector at the other end of the spectrum. However, it is pressing to encourage skill economies. So what we want is that some micro and small firms should graduate to become the large firms and should be able to reap the economies of scale. So we have to encourage growth of smaller firms into bigger ones. It is only then that we will be able to develop sizable manufacturing capacity. Manufacturing sector, the millions join the workforce each year on the manufacturing sector. Very few shall be created in capital intensive sectors, and most of them would be in the MSME segment. So we all are aware of this particular fact that MSME segment is the creator of employment. It provides maximum potential for exports also. And years together, we have been focusing on this segment. However, how much successful we have been is a matter of debate. What I would suggest is that we must have our concentration on industrial policy now. It is, the most essential to have a focused industrial policy, something we have not had since 1991. So there was a national manufacturing policy in between, but it was not implemented in letter and spirit. The COVID crisis has also brought to the forefront the issue of regional imbalances. Because we all have witnessed an unprecedented migrant labor crisis that was forced to return to their native places because the sources of livelihood dried up in the urban areas. According to the government's own estimate, 26 lakh migrant laborers were stranded across 33 states, with barely 10% of them lodged in government relief camps. Ideally, we all agree that what should happen is that people should be provided jobs around their native places. And this can only ensure a balanced regional development. The COVID-19 pandemic, it has come at a difficult demographic time, especially for India. And it is expected to exacerbate a loop of crisis. We already are in the middle of a job crisis, and we were talking about the vanishing job, and unemployment rates were on a 45-year high. And in between of all those crises, a slowing down global economy, the job crisis, we were faced with this pandemic. So what we could now, as according to some estimates, India needs to create nearly 10 million jobs every year to absorb people moving into the working age population, besides those that are already unemployed. And if you count the jobs that have been lost due to the COVID pandemic, it is a really staggering figure. There's a company, Eco Group, a staffing company. It has mapped the impact of COVID-19 spread across employment in some Indian industries. And it is said that about 9 million jobs can be reduced across the manufacturing clusters of food products, metals, plastics, rubber, and electronics. The industry had already started in the last quarter owing to the falling sales. The services sector is one of the majorly affected sector in this pandemic. For example, the tourism and hospitality industry is faced with a possible loss of over 20 million jobs if recovery in the industry beyond October 2020. So if we go beyond October 2020, this industry has a particularly difficult time to face. Overall, about 136 million non-agricultural jobs are at immediate risks. This estimate is based on the National Sample Survey and the periodic labor force surveys by the newspaper March 2020. So, coming back to MSMEs, we all know that these job creators are also facing an unprecedented challenge for survival as the lockdown has disrupted economic activity. Just to understand the reasons behind the interstate migration and the need to look at this scenario post-COVID for economic recovery, we must understand that India's demand-driven economy cannot start showing the green shoots of recovery till we work towards boosting the income levels of the lower and the middle class through provision of jobs. Interstate migration occurs, and why does it occur, and what has to be done to stop interstate migration to a level which is, tolerable? Must have a look at how to provide jobs at the native places for people. Large-scale migration takes place from the backward northern states in India as industrial activity is insufficient in those states like UP and Bihar. Besides, we all know that the productivity of agriculture, whether it is in terms of per person or whether it is in terms of per hectare, is quite low. Also, there is lack of non-farm jobs in the rural areas in these states. So, and one more point is there that if you look at terms of working age population, these states which have the highest percentage of people who are in the working age. So these young people have no option but to migrate looking for greener pastures. Thus, it is extremely important that jobs and skill development opportunities are provided in these states. This will help us to go further for inclusive and balanced growth, as well as it will give a boost to demand and consumption, helping in economic recovery. And this suggests that this can be easily done through focusing on generating employment in labor-intensive sectors through cluster development. So my key point that I want to highlight here is the cluster development. Though we have been talking about this since 2015, however, and we have a list of clusters which the various ministries put on their websites. But are those clusters adequately developed? Are they self-dependent? Have they reached to the capability of being able to do exports? That is a question that government should focus on now. According to an estimate, there are approximately 5,000 plus clusters spread across the country, and most of them are the unorganized segment manufacturing is concentrated in these clusters. However, to promote labor-intensive manufacturing, India must develop its modern industrial cluster. So, as I've already told that it is what we are looking at is labor-intensive manufacturing for providing jobs to our people. Another point that I want to highlight as far as cluster development is concerned is that policy fragmentation should stop. So what is policy fragmentation? At present, there are several ministries like textiles, leather, food, MSME, which are administering cluster programs under different terms and conditions. This is usually called as policy fragmentation, and this policy fragmentation should end, and proper planning should be done at the center and the state level. So here I must, reiterate the point that state level planning is also as important as the central, because these clusters, their requirements can only be understood at the state level. Another requirement that is there for as far as cluster development is concerned is providing institutional credit, helping for infrastructure, and of course skill development. For effective cluster development, there should be availability of institutional sources of credit infrastructure availability and skill development. Mostly the manufacturing clusters in urban locations function as unorganized segment enterprises. They are present in the small towns which lack proper infrastructure. Hence, we should work on that along with the development of digital infrastructure. This is very important actually, digital infrastructure.
Meenal ma'am would request you to please shorten and
sure.
another 2 minutes please. Yeah.
Digital infrastructure, because when we are able to develop the digital infrastructure, these small firms will be able to eliminate middlemen and their revenues would rise. One of the suggestions that I would want to give here is that to pump funds for this cluster development and promote infrastructure, the government should divert the the Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation funds that are given by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs to these towns with clusters. Also, to increase the access of credit, we need to leverage the new technologies, especially the blockchain technologies. And I'm happy to tell you this, that many companies are already doing this. Of course, raising cluster productivity requires skills, and therefore at local level there are few vocational training centers available. So therefore what needs to be done is that new vocational education and training development centers should be focused at the cluster levels, which will help the educated youth to get employment closer to their homes. Recently in an interview, Shri Nitin Gadkari also spoke about his plans on strengthening the cluster development for employment and reduce interstate migration. He spoke about his idea of developing leather industry cluster along the Delhi-Mumbai highway. So we have planners and the policy makers who are thinking on those lines. The heartening news. Effective cluster development, if it is accompanied with a focused industrial policy.
Meenal ma'am would again like to interrupt. Please shorten it up, and we are running really short of time. So
fine. So I have already covered all those points. So
yes.
Just like to wind up by saying that it is heartening to note that Government of India has recently announced its intent to develop 10 mega clusters across 9 states to brand India as the most attractive destination for global companies. I hope that this will give a positive sentiment and also help to fulfill Prime Minister's dream for an Atmanirbhar Bharat and take advantage of the global anger and mistrust against China. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Very briefly, you discussed about the cluster development, quite different aspect, and also you talked about the policy fragmentation very elaborately and role of state level plannings also. Thank you so much, Dr. Meenal Sharma ji, for sharing your thoughts. Now, quickly, I would request Mr. Deepak Jalan ji to please share his thoughts on the topic.
Hi everyone, audible?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
Okay, good evening to all dignitaries, academia, student and guest. I thank you all to be a part of this summit. My name is Deepak Jalan and properly known as DJ. So I'm a founder and CEO of HR Honchos. So HR Honchos is basically a consulting and workforce management company with more focus on professional services to do more with digital, IT, ITES, and new and future technologies. There are positive and negatives about COVID-19, and most of us have already discussed issues of negative impact of COVID. So I would be focusing more on possibilities and way forward. COVID-19, if you see, turning point of a human race now. And it has changed how we eat, how we think, how we act. Everything is a new normal. We have seen voluntarily quarantine, home quarantine, social distancing, schools, colleges closures, social distancing at workplace, and mass gathering closures, malls closures, lockdown, etc., which has created a lot of negative impact. At the same time, it has also given opportunity to think what we can do next. On negative side, if I talk about, yes, this is a time of economic danger, which is a greater risk of health. CRISIL, if we talk about, has announced that India will see the worst recession since independence. 130 million jobs might get loose due to pandemic. and outlook for job is not greater, at least for two quarters. However, post that, I really see something good coming in for India. If we talk about few concern areas, I'll keep it very short because we have a less of time. So three areas which I see impacted in a big way as per the Deloitte report. One is direct impact on production. Due to demand, export closed down, and labor shortage, we are seeing this impact in productions, especially in manufacturing. There is a disruption of market and, due to supply chain management, and there is a financial impact on firms and due to financial markets, especially because of the weakened trust in financial instruments, significant decline in equity markets, corporate bonds, investor preferring to hold growth and expansion. So these are the few negatives which we are seeing in some concern. Now, the good news which I see right now is that the worst is over. Trust me, because we have seen China was the first one to start, and now China has slowed down in transmission, and China economy is returning into normal, which means yes, rest of the world can see the same thing coming very soon. The way people do business and the way consumer behave is also changing. Technology description is most abundant, we see. Digital is becoming more normal. COVID has pushed all of us to adopt a newer digital in form of manners. If you see the ecosystem everywhere, the digital is there across. We can see the way we are talking right now, everything has become online. So I would say we are now a digital world. When we talk about few key growing sectors to focus, I would say there are areas which are really alarming. There are industries which might take somewhere around 2 to 5 years to grow. However, few companies, few areas, rather the sectors which are doing fairly well is e-commerce, ITES, digital, pharma, medical, manufacturing, transport, supply chain, utilities, insurance, leasing. These are the services which are doing very well, and they will come up very well in next couple of quarters. Automation and AI will definitely replace the traditional occupation and methods. We have already seen IT changes like Zoom and Microsoft Teams was never there. And we have seen how things are. Globalization will definitely increase due to labor costs. India to get some cushioning, I would say, because trade will grow. The reason is low cost resources here. Export will increase to counter China. Outsourcing of labor will definitely increase, and industrial capabilities have to be built to address China and to get away business from China. I would say that we all need to tune and retune for the growth for way forward. This is something which is very important right now. For individual, I'll break this into two parts, for individual and for company. For individuals, especially for student and workforces, we need to rethink how we act, how we react. So sustainability is definitely required at this point of time. Retain and reskilling of resources is required. Adaptability on digital and online platform is required. Flexibility and change management is very important right now with a focused approach. We need to focus more on research and develop mindset rather than just doing mindset. And we also need to focus on a self-employment. For companies, if I talk about, for companies, we need to work on repricing our products, brand enhancement, new offerings as per the new areas post-COVID, evolving the new offerings, focus on digital automation vis-a-vis the old traditional methods. We need to be agile, cost-effective, and we need to adapt the new technologies like cloud, AI, blockchain, big data, analytics, which will help in new emerging technologies. Since I see there's a very limited time left, so I'll sum it up now by saying that digital is growing exponentially. We are now a digital world. We all should focus on Skill India, Make in India programs, especially manufacturing, and Digital India. Atmanirbhar Bharat dream, which is of PM Narendra Modi. I would say the PM could foresee all this as if it was coming, because that is what the India was getting built on. We started Make in India long back. The only thing is that more energies and synergies has to be put into that. To complete with the developed world, we need to take this as an opportunity to become a developed nation. We have all the resources, we have land, we have got 5 weather, we have got technology and tech infrastructure people. We provide technology to the rest of the world. So we need to invest in technology in our own land to compete with the world. I would say that migration in labor would be less, so that we can see post-COVID more growth coming in C-class cities in rural India. The reason why, because of the technology platform, India to work more on digital and online platforms now. Companies will shift their base to smaller cities to attract low-cost labor, land and infrastructure, which is readily available. Only thing which is required is focused and dedicated skill set. In India, it's a high time to make a shift now, a thinking shift. I always say it's a P versus P, shift from problems to possibilities. We have got huge possibilities post-COVID and the way we have to think. I think digital is the new. Thanks.
Arpana, are you there?
Arpana, ma'am. She's there. Her mic is not visible, sir.
Okay. I think Arpana is not able to get connected.
Arpita ma'am will be taking over.
So let me wind up. First of all, I would like to congratulate all the guests and esteemed speakers who enlightened very well under the current circumstances, current COVID environment, about the positive as well as negative aspects of the economy as a whole. No doubt challenges are many, but Mr. Deepak Jalan rightly said that there are many opportunities too, to understand the new environment, to understand about the new way of living life. And it is also true that the current situation was very well pertinent, though it came in the form of corona. We were expecting for long something to happen because of the several environmental damages which were caused by industrial development and many more also. So naturally, I believe that all the students and all the guests from different countries also who are here, they must have gained very much with these talks, these discussions and deliberations by the esteemed speakers. I extend my sincere thanks.
Sir, sorry for intervening in between. Sir, we have Mr. Sujit left.
Oh.
Oh, we have Sujit sir left. So I request. Yes, sir.
Yeah, sorry. Mr. Sujit, you please.
Sujit Kumar, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Sujit, you are requested to start your talk also. I thought as Arpana was not connected, I thought that the deliberations have been made by all the guests. So no issue. We have got the time. So
Sir, I cannot see him in the list.
Mr. Sujit can start his deliberation.
Sir, I cannot.
Mr. Sujit.
So he is not there in the room, the meeting this time.
He's not in the meeting. He is left.
Is he there?
No, sir, he is not there.
I request Akhilesh sir to please connect with him, Mr. Sujit.
He is not joined now.
Not sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So he's not
Is he there
sir.
or not?
No, sir, he's not there.
Okay, because I also checked. I didn't find him. Then I thought you must have seen him among the guests, but I could not see him. I could not see him.
He's not there. He's not there.
So maybe he must have got some other work,
Okay, sir.
or if he gets connected, let's see. Yes, Akhilesh ji.
Akhilesh sir, I request you to please kindly check with Dr. Sujit.
Dr. Akhilesh ka bhi mic is not visible.
Okay, no issue.
No,
I think
okay, sir, he's not there.
no. Dr. Akhilesh is talking right now, so he will be joining. I think he is going to join.
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm just hoping sir to join in. Due to some problem, he is unable to connect.
Okay, okay. Is he joining?
I'm just trying to connect. Unable to talk to him. Just 1 minute. 1 minute.
I think some
Okay, you
technical
might be having
problems.
connectivity issue. I think so. That's why he could not rejoin again, because I can check. No one is there in the waiting room also.
Nobody is there.
Yeah, so no issue. Let us conclude the program. It was wonderful. All the esteemed guests, they spoke very well on this subject. Rather, it must have benefited everyone, including me. Arpana, are you there?
Sir, her mic is not being shown.
Yes, yes, sir. I have made
Dr.
a
Arpita,
join.
you conclude the program.
Yes, okay, okay, sir. So, just wait a minute. I'll open the chat box. We have, okay, so
Yeah, Dr. Arpita.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
So please conclude the program.
Okay. So, on behalf of entire GLBIMR family, I would like to express my gratitude. First of all, to Dr. Anoop Pant, Professor Sharda University, Dr. Prasoom Dwivedi, Professor UPES University, Dr. Gurendra Nath Bhardwaj, sir, Professor NIIT University, Dr. Sudhanshu Joshi from Doon University, Dr. Meenal Sharma, HOD Management Tips, New Delhi, and last but not least, a wonderful deliberation by Mr. Deepak Jalan, founder and CEO HR Hong, for sparing their valuable time, sharing their perspective and opinion with us. I would also like to extend sincere thanks to Shri Pankaj Agarwal ji and Dr. Ajay Kumar sir for organizing this knowledge enriching informative session. Thank you all for being so participative and attentive throughout this session. I'm sure that all of you who are present here must have filled the feedback form, and most probably within 2 days, we'll be sharing the certificate of participation with all of you. Thank you very much, and we'll keep on updating you about what next with GLBMR very soon, very shortly on your email ID. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
So with your permission, may I end the session?
So you can end the session. Thank you very much. Thank you once again.